That's what everyone assumed. She sat by the window, knees pulled slightly inward, a worn grey hoodie zipped halfway up, headphones resting around her neck instead of over her ears. A slim notebook lay open on her tray table, filled with neat diagrams, airflow angles, lift coefficients, handwritten equations that meant nothing to the passengers around her. To them, she was invisible. The flight from Istanbul to London had been smooth so far. Soft cabin lighting, low murmurs of conversation, the gentle hum of engines cutting through the thin air at 35,000 feet. A businessman 2 rows ahead typed furiously on his laptop. A family across the aisle argued quietly about snacks. Somewhere behind her, someone laughed. Normal. Too normal. She glanced out the window, eyes narrowing slightly as she watched the wing flex against the clouds. Her fingers tapped once on the armrest, then stopped. She felt it before anyone else did. A subtle shudder, barely noticeable, like turbulence, but wrong. 5 seconds later it came again, stronger this time. The plane dipped. A few gasps rippled through the cabin. Seatbelt signs chimed on. A flight attendant paused mid-step, gripping a seat back for balance before forcing a practiced smile. Just a little turbulence, folks. But the student in row 8 wasn't fooled. Her eyes dropped instantly to the wing. The vibration wasn't rhythmic. It was uneven, mechanical. Her heartbeat slowed, not sped up. Then came the sound. A deep, unsettling thrum that resonated through the fuselage, followed by a sharp metallic whine that made several passengers clamp their hands over their ears. Someone shouted, "What was that?" The plane lurched again, harder this time. Luggage rattled in overhead bins. A child began to cry. In the cockpit, warning lights exploded into life. Engine vibration. Thrust asymmetry. Auto trim disengaged. The first officer swallowed hard, hands tightening on the controls. "Captain, we're losing stability on the left side." The captain didn't answer immediately. His jaw clenched as he fought the controls, eyes scanning instruments faster than humanly reasonable. "This isn't turbulence," he said quietly. "This is worse." Back in the cabin, fear spread fast. Passengers whispered urgently now. Phones came out. A woman clutched a rosary. A man across the aisle muttered, "This can't be happening." The student in row 8 calmly closed her notebook. She didn't panic, she didn't pray, she didn't reach for her phone. Instead, she listened. She counted the seconds between vibrations. She felt the yaw, the slight but dangerous pull to the left. She watched the wing angle change by degrees. Most people would never notice. Left engine instability, she thought. Rudder trim struggling to compensate. In the cockpit, the first officer's voice shook. "We're not responding fast enough. If this escalates..." The captain made a decision. He reached for the intercom. The click echoed through the cabin speakers, sharp and final. Conversations died instantly. "Ladies and gentlemen," the captain began, his voice steady but stripped of its usual warmth. "This is your captain speaking." Silence. "We are experiencing a technical issue. My crew is fully trained, and we are following procedures." A pause, too long. Then he continued, "This may sound unusual, but for safety reasons I need to ask..." The student in row 8 sat up straighter. "Is there any combat pilot on board?" The words slammed into the cabin like a shockwave. People looked at each other in confusion. "Combat pilot? Did he say combat? Why would they need that?" A nervous laugh came from somewhere near the back. It died quickly. A man stood halfway up, then sat back down, shaking his head. Another passenger raised his hand uncertainly, then lowered it again. The flight attendants froze, eyes wide. The student didn't move. Not yet. The captain's voice returned, firmer now. "If you have military flight experience, especially high-performance or emergency combat operations, please identify yourself to a member of the cabin crew." Fear turned to panic. A woman began crying openly. Someone shouted, "Are we going down?" A child screamed. The plane jolted violently, throwing several people forward against their seatbelts. The student finally stood, slowly, calmly. The man beside her stared. "Miss, what are you doing?" She didn't answer. As she stepped into the aisle, conversations around her died mid-sentence. People turned to look, their eyes scanning her from head to toe. Hoodie, backpack, student ID clipped to the strap. This was who stood up. A flight attendant rushed toward her. "Ma'am, please sit. I need to speak to the captain," the student said. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The attendant hesitated. "Do you have flight experience?" The student reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded card. Not a passport, not a boarding pass. Something else. "I'm cleared," she said simply. Another violent shudder ripped through the aircraft. The attendant grabbed the seat for balance, then looked back at the student, really looked this time. The student's eyes were steady, focused, trained. The attendant swallowed. "Follow me." As they moved toward the cockpit, whispers followed them down the aisle. "Who is she?" "She's just a kid." "No, look at her." The cockpit door loomed ahead. Behind it, alarms screamed louder. The student stopped just short of the door. She exhaled once, then knocked. The cockpit door sealed shut behind her with a heavy thud. Inside, chaos reigned. Warning alarms blared in overlapping tones. Red and amber lights pulsed across the instrument panel like a battlefield command. Bored. The aircraft yawed left again, violently enough that the captain had to brace his foot hard against the rudder pedal. The first officer turned and froze. This is who you sent us?" he asked, disbelief cutting through his panic. The captain didn't answer. His eyes locked onto the student standing between them. She took in the cockpit in a single glance. Engine parameters, fuel flow imbalance, rudder trim pegged near its limit. The artificial horizon tilted just enough to be dangerous. She spoke immediately. "Left engine compressor stall," she said. "Secondary vibrations feeding into the yaw damper. Auto trim disengaged because it can't compensate fast enough." The cockpit went silent except for the alarms. The captain stared at her. "How do you—" "Reduce left thrust by 12%, she said, already stepping closer. "Manual rudder trim, 3 degrees right. Don't fight the yaw. Let it settle." The first officer hesitated. The plane lurched again. "Do it!" the captain snapped. The adjustments were made. For the first time in 10 minutes, the aircraft steadied, not fixed, but no longer spiraling toward disaster. The captain turned to her fully now. "Who are you?" She finally looked at him. "My name is Aylin," she said. "Cadet pilot, final year Air Force Academy." The first officer scoffed nervously. "Cadet? This is a commercial wide-body jet, not a trainer." Aylin didn't react. "I've flown worse," she said, "with one engine at night, under fire." Another alarm chirped, less urgent this time. The captain's voice lowered. "Combat experience?" "Yes, sir." The captain exhaled sharply. "Then you're with us. Sit." She slid into the jump seat, buckled in with practice speed, and leaned forward. "May I?" she asked, gesturing to the controls. The captain hesitated for half a second, then nodded. Aylin's hands moved with confidence, born not of arrogance, but survival. She adjusted throttle ratios, eased pressure instead of forcing corrections, and spoke calmly through every step. "Airframe's still sound," she said. "We're lucky, but we can't maintain altitude long term. We need to descend and divert." "Nearest airport is Heathrow," the first officer said, "but weather's closing in." Aylin looked at the radar. Thick clouds, crosswinds. "Better than the alternatives," she replied. "Request military escort." The captain raised an eyebrow. "On what authority?" She reached into her hoodie and pulled out the folded card she'd shown the flight attendant. She handed it over. The captain's eyes widened. "This clearance code," he began, "is still valid," Aylin finished, "and monitored." The captain didn't argue. Moments later, air traffic control crackled through the speakers. Then another voice joined the frequency. "Sharp, confident, military. Commercial Flight 718, this is Raptor lead. We have you on radar." 2 fighter jets slid into view outside the cockpit windows, slicing through the clouds like guardians. In the cabin, panic gave way to awe. Passengers gasped as the jets appeared beside them. Phones were raised. Tears flowed. Not from fear now, but relief. Back in the cockpit, turbulence worsened as they descended. The plane shook violently. The first officer clenched his jaw. "Crosswinds are pushing us off alignment." Aylin leaned forward. "I've landed in sandstorms," she said. "Trust the numbers." As they approached the runway, the left engine sputtered again, harder this time. The aircraft dipped. The ground rushed up fast. "Pull up!" the first officer shouted. "Not yet," Aylin said calmly. She waited, counted, then smooth, precise input. The aircraft leveled. Main landing gear touched down. Once, then twice. The roar of reverse thrust filled the cabin. They rolled to a stop. Silence. Then the cabin exploded with sound. Applause, crying, shouts of joy, people hugging strangers. In the cockpit, the captain removed his headset slowly. He turned to Aylin. "You saved 186 lives today," he said quietly. She shook her head. "We did." Emergency crews surrounded the plane. Doors opened. Passengers streamed out, many pausing to look back, to search for the girl from row 8. Some found her near the exit, backpack slung over one shoulder, hoodie pulled up again. A woman grabbed her hand. "Thank you," she sobbed. Aylin nodded gently. "You're safe now." Outside the terminal, reporters swarmed, but she slipped away before they could reach her. Later that night, in a quiet dorm room, Aylin placed her notebook back on her desk. She opened it, not to equations, to a blank page. Tomorrow she would return to classes, exams, training, being just a student. But somewhere, hundreds of people would remember the moment they learned the truth. That heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they sit quietly in row 8, waiting for the moment they are needed.